We've got a massive trade to talk about for the St. Louis Cardinals, and we're going to look at all the prospects and details of that trade here on the St. Louis Cardinals Daily Podcast. My name is Andrew Teuscher. Thank you for tuning in. Brendan Donovan has actually been traded from the St. Louis Cardinals to the Seattle Mariners. This is the biggest will they, won't they of our generation, and it finally has happened. They have become united and gotten a deal done. They just had to bring in a friend to get the thing across the line. So the Cardinals make a 3-team deal. It wasn't just the Mariners and the Cardinals. We brought the Rays into it, and honestly, it brings me concern because every time we seem to bring the Rays into a deal, it doesn't go our way. And then very little part of this actually has anything to do with the Rays and the Cardinals, but I don't like the Rays being in deals. There's just bad juju, devil magic. It's going to curse us. I don't know. Throwing that out there. However, what the deal entails is Brendan Donovan, the heart and soul of the St. Louis Cardinals, a fan favorite, possibly the best player on the Cardinals, probably the best player on the Cardinals, although we'll see with J.J. Weatherholt. He is gone. He's going to Seattle. Brendan, it was excellent here with the Cardinals, spent many years with us. Just a classic Cardinal, grinder, played a ton of positions, which just became synonymous with the Cardinals. No incredible single tool, but yet good at every single thing, a little bit of pop, a lot of contact. Again, great glove in the field in multiple positions. I know people debate, was he actually a great fielder? He got the gold glove, but his metrics were bad, whatever. Brendan Donovan's going to go play for a contender, and I'm happy for him. Frankly, I would have loved to have him. I said it before. If we're going to extend a guy, he's the kind of guy you extend and go ahead and do that deal with, and you keep him around. Great clubhouse guy, and he's going to help you compete whenever you finally do. But he's gone, moved on. And the Cardinals will have a new outlook. We'll look into that more in future podcast episodes of what that means for our lineup and our infield specifically. But Brendan Donovan, we wish you luck up there in Seattle. And the Rays part of this is the Rays end up getting Ben Williamson, who was the 16th prospect for the Mariners in 2024, and since came up in the big leagues last year, had a brief stint, about half the season, played in 85 games with a 604 OPS in 2025. Didn't do amazing. That's who the Mariners end up sending to the Rays so that the Rays would send us more things in order to get this deal across the line. And the Cardinals would get Cijntje, a guy we've talked about here and many of other mentioned connected to the Cardinals. Whenever the report first came out of names being mentioned, being connected to a Brendan Donovan deal, he was one of the names mentioned along with Luzero Montes as guys that the Cardinals are interested in. We bring in Cijntje. We do not bring in Montes, though. Instead, we bring in Peete, the Mariners' number 11 prospect, a left-handed hitting outfielder, as well as another outfielder, Colton Ledbetter, the Rays' number 24 prospect. So that's where the Cardinals get something from the Rays in this 3-team deal. So basically, the Mariners paid the Rays to give us a little bit of extra because I'm guessing we wanted Cijntje plus we wanted Montes. That's why that name got thrown out, I'm sure, when we got a semi-comparable outfielder, albeit a worse prospect. But same idea. But we had the Rays come in, throw something in a little bit extra because I'm sure they might have offered us Ben Williamson in the deal, and we said, no, we don't need another middle infield prospect. Give us literally anything else. It made sense all in all. I give a lot of credit to whoever came up with that, either Chaim Bloom or the Mariners GM. Great idea. Worked out, I think, for getting the purposes of that done. And we also got 2 competitive balance round B picks, which I'll talk about more later. All in all, I'm kind of agreeing with what I'm seeing from Cardinals Twitter or X, whatever you're saying, social media. I think this is just like a B minus sort of range deal, this return in general. I'll go into every specific player overall, but I'd say this deal was fine. It is perfectly adequate. It was of value. When I said the Cardinals had to be blown away by a deal, I hardly call this blown away. We certainly went for quantity over quality, and I guess in a rebuild that makes sense. Cijntje's a piece we're going to be excited about. Again, I'll talk about him in a second. But overall, it's a good deal. It makes sense for both sides. We got some stuff back. And ultimately, with trades like this, what's going to matter is 5 years from now for the Cardinals on if we'll win this or not. Obviously, in the short term, the Mariners are going to get the most out of this. It'll depend in the long term what we get out of this. And specifically, again, that all hinges around Cijntje, who the Cardinals will be bringing in. The 22-year-old pitcher pitched in Double-A last season. And he's a switch pitcher. or at least was a switch pitcher. He was a switch pitcher all the way up in his life through college as a drafted, played in the minors as a switch pitcher, and has been decided that this year he will focus solely as a righty. So we won't have that, trick going for us for the Cardinals. He will only be a right-handed pitcher, but that is a good thing for the Cardinals as the left-handed side of his pitching repertoire was not good. His fastball sat much lower. He didn't have as great secondary pitches. All in all, he got mashed trying to be a switch pitcher. It was really cool. Great parlor trick. He even did it in the Little League World Series, which I remember hearing about all the way back in 2016, I think is when it was. But yeah, Cijntje, cool story. He grew up in the Netherlands. He's a natural lefty, actually, but ended up, because his dad was a right-handed professional pitcher, he ended up trying to use his dad's glove to learn how to pitch, and it paid off for him, because if he didn't have that right-handed pitching in his bag, that left-handed pitching was not so good. Speaking of his pitching, in the minor leagues, he had a 4.58 ERA in high A ball, but a 2.67 in a little bit less time in double A. What could explain that is A, he was pitching left-handed. I guarantee more in high A. Additionally, his whips and among other stats other than ERA were actually pretty similar to what it was in double A. So I'm guessing just got some bad luck, more home runs than he was hoping for, stuff like that. So I think that 2.67 ERA makes a lot more sense. Could be closer to what he really is. Obviously, color me biased, but I think it would make some sense just talking out why his ERA was such as it was. His pitch mix, he is known for his fastball, which is becoming a trend of Cardinals prospects as we bring him in. It has been a trend in baseball, so I'm glad the Cardinals are considering that. His fastball, as it grades on the standard scale of 20 to 80, is a 60, which is very, very solid, a plus pitch. It touches the upper 90s. That, again, is kind of what makes him great. Along with that, his slider grades out as a 55, so an above-average slider with great movement, looks sick going across the plate. And what's really hinging him being an excellent pitcher is, again, commanding the fastball and the slider, but also this changeup that's been kind of wishy-washy for him. Whether he can add that third pitch will really determine if he'll be a long-term starter or if he'll end up being a bullpen piece. Either way, he looks like he's going to be a contributor to the Cardinals as soon as next year. His ETA is 2026. So we probably will see him at some point this year. He's a guy who might end up competing with Quinn Matthews and Hunter Dobbins and Richard Fitz by the end of the season to see if he can crack the rotation, as he's the 91st overall prospect in baseball. I failed to mention that. The Cardinals now have 6 top 100 prospects according to MLB Pipeline now with Cijntje on our team. And Cijntje, along with the great pitches we've already talked about, he's a bit of an interesting prospect, not just because of his ability to pitch with both hands, but also for a guy who throws high 90s, he's 5'11", 200 pounds. He's a very solid athletic build, but he's not a super tall guy. They describe him as a supreme athlete on the mound. And the MLB Pipeline, or I can't even remember if I saw it off that, or if it was on MLB Pipeline. They comped him to Marcus Stroman, which I thought made perfect sense. You go watch a couple films of him. Go on X, you'll find it immediately. Redbird Farmhands has a great breakdowns of him and some videos out there. They have great stuff. You'll see it. It looks a lot like Marcus Stroman, just his athleticism on the mound, the way he generates so much velocity from such a small body relative. I'm bigger than the guy, so he's a relatively small guy for a major league pitcher. But 15th pick in the 2024 draft, the Cardinals got this is the prize of the return for Brendan Donovan. And I think it is something that's worthwhile, and I think it's not Cade Anderson. I never thought we were going to get Cade Anderson. I never thought we were going to get Ryan Sloan. So if we got one of those guys, it would have been like, oh, yeah, Bloom fleeced him. So it's definitely not that. We didn't do that. This is a deal that made sense for both teams, and it's not before the trade we were thinking the trade was never going to happen, and people were yelling and screaming, oh, it's a complete mishap by Bloom to not get anything for him. And now this happens, and people are saying, how could we get rid of Donovan? We're throwing. Make up your mind, people. I think this is a good deal for the Cardinals. I would have liked to hang on to Donovan. This deal makes sense, and it's a fine deal. Good enough. Because another guy we got from the St. Louis Cardinals is Peete, a left-handed hitting outfielder who is the number 11 prospect in the Mariners farm system. And let it be known, the Mariners have a top 10 farm system in baseball. If you ask the Athletics' Keith Law, they're a top 5 system in all of baseball. So being the number 11 prospect for the Mariners, who had 7 top 100 prospects, That's pretty good still. He'd probably be much higher up in the Cardinals. He will be much higher up in the Cardinals farm system whenever he gets plopped in. But he was the 30th pick in 2023 out of high school. The 20-year-old was a former two-way player. So it just gives you a little bit of an idea of how athletic this guy is because he's 6'2", 200 pounds. And I'll just tell you my comp right away is Joshua Baez. It's a guy who hasn't been able to get the production in the minor leagues so far, but you just watch him play baseball, and he's an incredible athlete. Probably could have played multiple other sports as he was one of the top recruits out of Georgia in high school. His tools are as follows. The hit is a 45, so a average to below average hit tool. His power was 55, so above average. Run, 60, arm 60. That's athleticism that is coming out of him. And fielding 45, he's been moving around. He was a middle infielder, as many high school prospects are. You put your best player at shortstop. That's what you do. But now they're finding the outfield is probably the spot for him because he's quick, because he's so athletic and he's so rangy. And his stats his production is not why you love him. It's because of the tools. And that's exactly why we liked a guy like Joshua Baez. This is another very young guy, and Baez being a couple years older than him, we're hoping he takes that track. And we've shown the ability to potentially help some of these guys progress. Now, we need to see what Baez does in the majors, but we have reason to believe that this is a good match for the Cardinals for that very reason. His stats, 217 average, 692 OPS, but if you look at those raw counting stats, you'll see why we should be excited. 19 home runs and 25 stolen bases in just 125 games. So a 2020 potential 30-30 guy if he plays a full 162 in the minors. And the issue, top of the average, 162 strikeouts in 125 games. You do not want to be striking out more than one time per game, especially in the minors. A 30% strikeout rate for the young man. Clear what he needs to work on. Hopefully the Cardinals can help him figure it out. His ETA is 2027, so he's a little ways away. Again, a lot like Joshua Baez whenever he was in that point of his career. So we'll see what happens with Peete, but a name to keep an eye on going forward in a season where the Cardinals fans, we will be watching prospects a lot. Last person the Cardinals got was Colton Ledbetter, an outfielder, the second-round pick for the Tampa Bay Rays in 2023. He's a lefty outfielder, a classic Cardinal player, well-rounded. He isn't top-notch in any sort of tool, but he's pretty much good at everything. His 2025 stats were 265 average, 337 on base, and a 378 slug. His slugging when he got up to the higher levels of the minor leagues, it was either double or triple A. It went way down. His slugging was quite a bit higher in the lower parts of the system, but certainly not a slugger by any means. He had just 7 home runs in his last minor league system, but he stole 37 bags. Again, he's not a burner. He's just an overall good athlete. He reminds me of a guy like Lars Nootbaar, potentially. He needs to work on his strikeouts. Like, Nootbaar was okay with... He had more walking and more discipline in that regard than Nootbaar does, but still... a well-rounded guy who the Cardinals should see up this year. Again, his ETA being 2026 for the Cardinals. And the last thing the Cardinals got that I should mention is not just Ledbetter, but is a way for the Cardinals to get more prospects. We ended up getting 2 draft picks being sent on over to the Cardinals. 2 things that are called competitive round Comp B picks. These are picks that go to teams who are in the bottom 10 of revenue to try to balance out the powers that be in the Major League Baseball, as if giving them these picks will make guys like the Rays and the Mariners as good as the Dodgers. Obviously, that's not the case, but the Mariners and the Rays being bottom 10 in revenue got these picks, so shipping them over to the Cardinals. These picks always happen between rounds 2 and 3, so right after round 2, before round 3 starts, and the Cardinals will be getting picks 68 and 72 in the upcoming draft. So a way for the Cardinals to get a couple more prospects of this caliber. So really, the Cardinals added 1 top-notch prospect, and what did that be? 3-4 mid-tier prospects, guys who rank somewhere between 10 and 25. Hey, that's a lot of quantity, not a lot of quality. Let me know what you guys think of the Cardinals' return. We'll break down more of these guys as we keep going through spring training, as well as the impact it'll have on the Cardinals next year. Thank you for tuning in to the St. Louis Cardinals Daily Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm happy to go with you guys through spring training as pitchers and catchers report in just 9 days. Glad to have you guys here. Appreciate you turning in.